Good morning.
Good morning, Richard James. How are you?
I'm very well, Jamie Anderson. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
I hope you were scratching your nose there as your picture appeared on my phone.
Yeah, my fingers were very much on the exterior of my nose.
Well, that's a relief. That's good to hear.
That's something that listeners didn't want to picture in their minds. Sorry about that, listeners.
It's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Now, Richard.
Yes?
Before we get going today, I've just been looking at our stats. For
Are we
the
cancelled?
Well, no, but I'm astounded about how many listeners we've got from so many different nations from all over the globe.
Oh, really? Go on.
I really am. So
yeah.
Well, obviously we've got a lot of listeners in the US and Canada, and I should just say that our biggest listening state in the US is California. So if you're listening from California, thank you.
Yes.
Alabama and Tennessee and Kentucky, you're lagging behind a little bit. So if you've got some friends there, then do listen in. Obviously Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, India, Pakistan, China. We've got 250 people in China who are listening to us right now.
Great, and they're probably listening now, so that's you.
Yeah, so thank you for listening. The Philippines, Indonesia, obviously Australia, New Zealand, and 35 Icelandic listeners.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, there's really little else to do in Iceland, I suppose.
Don't be rude. Anyway.
Sorry, they're gone now. Oh,
yeah, they've stopped listening now. Anyway, isn't it lovely that we've got so many listeners from all over the globe? So thank you, all of you.
We are truly international podcasters, Jamie.
And if you're wondering why people listen to the Gerry Anderson podcast from all over the world, well, you might be about to find out as we delve into the world of Gerry Anderson for the Gerry Anderson podcast, pod 39.
39?
Yeah.
Hooray!
Let's do it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Here we are. Pod 39.
Almost, well, I was going to say almost at 40, but almost at 50. And when we get to our half century, we are looking at ways of celebrating, aren't we?
Are we? Well, we're toying with the idea.
Yeah, well, we asked people to write in, didn't we? Anyway, Richard, who are you?
Oh, sorry, I'm Richard James. Who are you?
Jamie Anderson.
Well, that's a relief. And why are we here?
To talk all things Gerry Anderson for the next, I don't know, hour, 90 minutes or so in total.
Yeah.
With other bits and pieces that happen during the show, like...
Yes, absolutely. Well, we've got some fab facts coming up, of course.
Your
Everyone's second favourite item in the podcast. We've got some listener emails because people have been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. Throughout the show, I should be reading your tweets because people have been getting in touch with us on Twitter, either with Richard N. James or I'm Jamie Anderson, and hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast. And we have everyone's favourite part of the show, following some Gerry Anderson news, of course, and an interview. It's Chris Dale's Amazing Randomizer, which he sits down in front of a random episode. I think he should start a new series. What's he going to do when this one runs out and he's done every single episode?
Well, but
I think
that's not going to be for about 10 years, though. So.
Yeah, but we're in for the long haul, aren't we, Jamie?
We are.
Yeah.
I think
he should start again, but watch them in order and call it The Organizer. How's that?
He's definitely up for that, I can already tell. So, yeah, perfect. And then after he's done it in order chronologically, he can do it in order alphabetically.
Yes, he could. That's right.
The alphabetizer.
I'll put that to him, see what he says.
Yeah, I mean, we've got literally decades of content here.
Yeah.
So,
joy. Yeah. In the meantime, of course, we love it if you could subscribe to whichever platform you're listening to us on, in which case you will be notified whenever a new episode appears, and we'd hate you to miss out. There are 38 of them now. This is our 39th. And please leave us a nice review and rate us if you feel so inclined, and share it with your friends so they can listen too.
Absolutely. And you know how we started off with some stats, Richard?
Yeah.
I also I neglected to mention our 3 listeners in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
Our 2 listeners in the People's Democratic of Laos.
Wow.
And our 1 listener in South Korea. So It's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's fantastic. Well, I think we should dedicate Pod 39 to our sole listener. Our sole listener.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, I really didn't.
You're so funny.
Oh, I am
so
good, aren't
funny.
I?
Yeah.
In South Korea. If that's you, do drop us a line, because this podcast is just for you, listener in South Korea. Drop us a line at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll read out your message in a future podcast.
Yeah.
That's
Brilliant.
not to say they've listened to every single one, of course.
No, they may.
Or indeed that they're listening now.
They may have listened to the intro episode and gone, "Oh, this isn't for me."
Yeah.
Actually, no. I think
well.
these stats are actually from our most recent episode, so they should be
Great.
a live listener. Fingers crossed.
But
yeah,
that's fantastic,
Drop
isn't
us
it?
a line.
Yeah, do.
Now, Richard, I've got a slight confession.
Uh-oh.
At this stage, when recording, I don't actually know who the interview is with this week.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
I've got slightly behind. I've got a load of interviews lined up, but they're mostly being recorded after we record this podcast, and
yes.
I'm not sure who is going to make it in time to be included.
Ooh,
So
I see. So
obviously,
it's sort of like podcast roulette, isn't it?
well, it is. Except by the time we put it out, I'll know who
Yeah.
it is, and so the listeners will already know. So it's going to be a bit weird. Maybe I'll tell you what. We'll leave a gap. And I'll
Right.
insert the interviewee's name, and then we'll do a generic reaction to it.
Great.
So this week's interview is with
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
Great.
Oh, that's brilliant, because I love
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
and their work.
Yeah. Me too. I've always wanted to
big-
chat to,
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
and now we finally get the chance. So
That's fantastic. Well, good for you.
brilliant. So that interview, whatever it is coming up.
Lovely.
But first, Richard,
Yes,
we need to enter the world of Gerry Anderson
at last.
with some rather astonishing fab facts.
Right, go on then, grab your book.
Well, no.
What?
I'm not grabbing my book this week.
Eh?
In fact, this week I'm sort of taking a holiday from Fab Facts. I am
just-
personally, but
Right.
don't worry, there are still Fab Facts. So Fab Facts is a section that's proved so popular that we have listeners.
Says Jamie.
That we have listeners sending in Fab Facts now.
You're right.
So,
okay, do we?
So yeah, to give my page flicking thumb a break this week, and to give you a break from having to shout Fab to
Yeah.
to stop me flicking through the tome of Fab Facts, this week Josh Long has sent in 2 Fab Facts of his very own.
Cool.
So here they
Great.
are. Take it away, Josh.
Hello, Jamie and Richard, and everybody listening to the podcast. I've got 2 fab facts I'd like to share with you today. The first one is actually from the DVD commentary on Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, episode 1, entitled The Mysterons. And it was one of those special effects achieved by something so simple. When you first see the episode and you look at the Mysteron complex, you'll notice that the buildings are slightly blurred. And this effect was achieved by placing a sheet of glass over the camera and rubbing Vaseline in various areas of the glass to give that blurry alien-like effect. A fantastic effect, but achieved by something so simple. I love this because it's another example of how ambitious Gerry and the effects team were to make these shows what they are and the success that they are. Fab fact number 2, I actually found out about this weekend. I was FaceTiming my dad and we were talking about the Gerry Anderson podcast and the various shows and also the upcoming Firestorm, and my dad was saying, since we're on that subject, I've got something to show you. And he presented a model of Fireball XL5. And I asked him immediately how he got it because I'd never actually seen this before. He explained that back in the 60s, Kellogg's were doing token collections where you would send off tokens and you would receive a toy or a prize. In this case, my dad sent off the tokens and he received a Fireball XL5 model kit, which he put together himself. And then my granddad very kindly hand painted it. And after all these years, my dad has actually kept it. And he's now put it on display in the house because it's been in the attic all these years. So it's been fantastic to share these fab facts with you. And now it's back to Jamie and Richard.
Ah, thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
From Florida, I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah, although you can hear the British accent there. He's a
Well,
Brit
yes.
in Florida.
Of course he is, yeah.
And often listens to us in the bathroom, I believe.
Right, okay. That's a bit TMI, I think, Jamie.
Yeah.
And now, interesting, that first one about the putting the Vaseline on the lens, that's quite an old trick, isn't it? I remember in the heyday of Hollywood.
Yeah.
In fact, all the way up through to the 80s, I remember watching shows like Dynasty and Dallas, and whenever they had a close-up of, particularly their leading ladies, and particularly
Yes.
their older leading ladies, the classic thing was to smear Vaseline on the lens, but slightly soft focus as well was often used.
Yeah, they did that with Barbara Bain in Space 1999 a lot.
Did they?
Yeah.
Did they?
I have a weird feeling that it was contractually... the company was contractually obliged to do that.
Fantastic. What on earth did I think of that? That's going straight in any contract in any future work.
We'll do it for the podcast as well.
But, there's a long tradition of that sort of thing. Beauty lights and so on. You know, many actors and actresses have beauty lights, which are specific lights, which are at a specific level and angled in a specific way so as to light their faces a little more
beautifully.
Kindly. Yes, beautifully, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also then the Fireball XL5 fact.
Yes.
Kellogg's fact. So, in fact, because last week we had the National Petrol or whatever it was with the Supercar Club.
Yeah, Ian Jacklin has been all over Twitter posting pictures about that.
He has,
Thank you,
yes. We should, we'll repost them or something shortly, won't we? The fact that his dad collected tokens for Kellogg's, got that Fireball XL5, and then his granddad painted it, and they've still got it now. That's lovely. There's 3 generations there.
Yeah,
of
really
of
lovely,
Anderson
isn't it?
connection, which is always nice to hear. So,
That's
Josh,
great.
Thank you for sending in the Fab Facts. If you've got a fab fact you'd like to share, do email it in, whether that be written or as a voice clip or a link to something, and we'll happily consider using it. But next week we'll be back to some page flicking.
Aha, great.
Tell Richard is thrilled at the thought.
Yeah, lovely.
But for this episode, that's the end of Fab Facts.
Josh Long! There you go.
There you go, Josh. Immortalised in Fab Facts music.
So, Jamie, what you're really saying is you haven't done an interview, you haven't done Fab Facts. Could you just remind everyone why you're here?
Well, I have put together the Gerry Anderson news.
Great. Well, actually, we love user-generated content because it means we can sit back and let everyone else do all the hard work. Now, I do have a few tweets to read out before we go any further. You can get in touch with us on Twitter just by hashtagging your tweet, Gerry Anderson Podcast. Or you can tweet me, Richard N. James, or him, I'm Jamie Anderson. Jeff Owen, for example, is celebrating over Space 1999 being shown on Forces TV, which we'll talk about a little bit later, of course. He said, surprisingly, I've never watched Space 1999.
What?
I know. So thanks to Forces TV, I'm getting my chance now. So here goes with episode 1, Breakaway, which showed last week. But then he also went on to say, are there any Anderson video games? I remember a couple in the 80s, Thunderbirds games they were. Anything else ever get made? Or are there any plans? Firestorm, maybe?
Well, absolutely, Firestorm will make sure there is a game or games, but that won't be for a little while yet. There are a couple of Thunderbirds games in the 90s. I think a PlayStation game or 2.
Right.
There was an abandoned Captain Scarlet game. There was a Terrorhawks game for the Spectrum, whatever model, one with the tape. Where you loaded it up with a tape.
Oh gosh. Oh,
ZX,
right, yes.
Spectrum ZX. Anyway, so all those things have existed, and also there is a Terrorhawks Neinstein game in the works. That's a podcast exclusive.
Crikey,
right there.
you just dropped that in, didn't you?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot
There's
about
a what
that.
now?
You've not played that or not seen it. Where Neinstein's sort of dodging buildings and shooting UFOs.
No.
Well, that game has been built for real, and we're testing it currently. So
nice.
It's brilliant, but it's very difficult.
Yes.
So anyway, there we go. Yes,
Great.
games have existed, and hopefully there'll be more to come.
Yeah, fantastic. Also, Ian Jacklin, who we know well on Twitter, posted a picture of a Countdown annual and said, I finally got my hands on this beauty from 1972. Countdown was a descendant of TV21 back in the day. I love it that the Doctor Who programmes always went hand in hand with Gerry Anderson shows, and there's a lovely picture on Twitter, so have a look at the pictures. I think it was some of Nicholas Courtney and various Supermarination puppets and so on. And also he says, what do you think of the idea of This Morning, the Gerry Anderson special hosted by Richard and Jamie? We could do that, couldn't we?
I mean, we
Take
could.
over from Philip and Phil Schofield and Holly Willoughby, couldn't we?
Yeah, which one's which?
Easy. Oh, I don't know. I look rather tasty in a nice pencil skirt.
And I think I'd look great in a silver wig. So there we go.
You're on.
As another disturbing image, the second one of this podcast. Maybe not. I think they might lose some viewers if we did that.
Yeah, possibly.
Anyway, Richard.
So there we are. A few tweets. Yeah.
Should we have some Gerry Anderson news before this gets any weirder?
Let's have some hashtag newsy news.
Gerry Anderson news time. Now, Richard, you've sort of already spoiled one of my bits of news in a minute, but...
sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry about that.
I'm only joking, it's all right. Now, Richard, you and I, last Monday, went and celebrated the life and times of our dear friend Richard Gregory, didn't we?
We did indeed, yes.
And it was very nice. It was as nice as those events can be and as happy as those events can be.
Yeah.
Lots of happy memories shared and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And lots of Richard's colleagues and friends from across the decades. A few people from Terrorhawks days, Ben Tuchinski and Judy Priest were there.
Yeah.
Lots of Richard's colleagues, and it was, as lovely a day as that kind of thing could be.
Well, it really was, and he made a great entrance, didn't he?
Yes, to the 2001 A Space Odyssey opening. It was brilliant. There are so many elements that he would have absolutely loved. So, and to all of you who wrote in, emailed in, commented on Twitter, Facebook, etc., left all those lovely messages, I made sure all those were passed on to Richard's partner Carol and his sister Ruth, and they were all very, very grateful for everything you've written. So thank you, all of you, for taking the time to write those messages.
Yeah.
So there we go. Now, Richard, you have mentioned Space 1999, which is being shown on Forces TV.
Yes.
Well, it's brilliant, isn't
What
it?
could
That
possibly
they've
go
gone from
wrong?
showing UFO to Space 1999.
Yeah.
And Breakaway premiered at 10 p.m. last Wednesday. Tuesday. Tuesday.
I think it was Wednesday. No, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. We'll leave that in. So 10 p.m. last Tuesday. But there was a little bit of a problem, wasn't there? I don't know if you read about this on Twitter, Richard.
Yes, I did read about it on Twitter. I was recording the show, so I wasn't watching it live as it went out. But I knew all about it.
So
bit of a boo-boo.
Yeah, so the main premise of Space 1999 is that there's a nuclear explosion on the moon, and the moon is blasted out of Earth orbit, which, as we established in an earlier podcast, is physically impossible. And that one with Phil Plait. So if you're interested in Space 1999 and its science, go back and listen to that pod. But there was a technical error which meant that the adverts ran across the entire sequence of the moon being blown out of Earth's orbit.
Yeah.
So we came back from the commercial break to see the crew of Alpha lying on the floor with no explanation as to what had happened.
That's right.
Lots of people
So
spotted the error.
if you were new to Space 1999, you must have been thinking at that point, what on earth is going on?
Yes.
What?
It was a little bit of a boo-boo.
Yes.
Now, the nice thing is that Forces TV saw the error, were very apologetic, and I think have handled the whole thing extremely well, bless them.
Yeah, brilliant.
And they've made sure they've got a remastered version, which was shown the Saturday before this podcast was released.
Indeed.
So hopefully you will have been able to see the full episode. But the guys there love Space 1999, and they're absolutely gutted that error happened.
Yeah.
They did send their apologies.
Listen, it's a talking point. I mean, I'm sure, that'll pick up a few viewers.
Absolutely. Well, there are a lot of people on Twitter and other social platforms talking about it. So anyway, at the moment you can catch Space 1999 if you're in the UK every weeknight at 10 p.m. and I think weekends at 8 p.m. is the current schedule. But you can just search Forces TV and you'll find that. And we had a lot of people from the US writing in saying, "Oh, but I can't watch it. That's not fair." Well, don't worry. We think Space 1999 is still being shown on Comet in the US, and if not, you can stream it from Shout Factory. So there's plenty of ways to watch it. And if you're elsewhere in the world, I'm sure there are other ways to watch it too.
Yeah, great.
And also, soon to be added to the Gerry Anderson website is a Watch It for Free page, where you can go and watch a few episodes of most of the shows absolutely free via YouTube, without any geo-blocking or whatever. So if you want to have a sample of a show that you've not seen before, you can go and watch it there, and we'll be adding new episodes all the time.
Excellent.
Just go to the Gerry Anderson website for that. And Richard, finally for this bit of the news.
Well, you say finally, but go on, yes.
Is that because you've got some secret news you haven't told me about?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So penultimately for this Gerry Anderson news section, The official Shadow t-shirt is on its way to the Gerry Anderson store. We've had loads of requests for that. People constantly emailing in saying, I want the Shadow logo on a t-shirt. Why haven't you got one yet? Well, it's finally
they're saying
there.
it like that, Jamie. That's rather belligerent of them, isn't it?
Yeah, they absolutely are. I mean, you should see the emojis. They're so rude.
Really?
Yeah, but
Gerry Anderson fans?
people really want them. There are also 3 brand new Thunderbirds designs which are coming very shortly, and they're rather lovely, if I do say so myself. A nice Frank Bellamy piece, you know, the comic artist from TV21. A Lady Penelope t-shirt for you Lady Penelope fans, and a 54321 Tracy Brothers shirt. You'll have to wait and see the design, but it's a lovely one by our dear friend Chris Thompson.
Yes, lovely.
So stay tuned for more info, and if you want to be the first to jump on these new designs, then you must subscribe to the Gerry Anderson newsletter. And you should do that because if you're a first-time purchaser, if you've never bought before, then you'll get a 10% off voucher for your first order.
Brilliant.
So you might as well give that a go, because even once you've got the voucher, you can unsubscribe straight away if you like.
Well, you could. Why would you do such a thing?
Once you subscribe, I will send you 3 emails just telling you what we do and my favourite show, and share an embarrassing photo of me and Dad. So it's worth it just for that. If nothing
Lovely.
else.
Yeah.
So that's the end of my bit of news, Richard. You've got something, have you?
Excellent. Well, it's just a last-minute shout-out, really. If you're listening to this on Monday, on the day of release, then this evening sees Fab Live, of course. Almost monthly broadcast on, now Facebook Live, Twitch and YouTube, and, various other platforms.
Periscope.
Periscope, yeah.
I think that's it.
From 7 o'clock this evening. Probably a bit late to be sending anything in, but if you've got anything you really want to feature tonight, and we've got a few hours before this evening, then pop it in an email to fablive@gerryanderson.co.uk, and we'll see what we can do.
Absolutely. And just for clarification, tonight being the 11th of March.
That's it.
Because some people might be listening to it and thinking, it's out today, but it might be the 12th.
Yeah, of course.
And they'll be terribly
That's
disappointed.
right.
But if you have missed Fab Live, you can go and watch it back anytime on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel.
Yeah.
youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV. And Richard, surely now, that is the end of the Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news. That was the news.
Beautiful. Did you...
No fake news this week, is it?
No, that's probably for the best, though. I think we upset and annoyed people with the last week's fake news.
I know, I did.
Did you notice that I pitch corrected you a couple of weeks ago on the on your final bit of singing?
Why would you do such a thing? What's wrong with my
it's because
singing?
you were a tone out, and I thought I'll just make it really beautiful. But it did make you sound a little bit like I'd shrunk you.
Well, that's everyone's dream, isn't it?
Little pocket-sized Richard James.
Yes.
Well, they can get an Officer Oren. No, they can get an Officer Oren. So. Anyway, Richard,
yes.
Do you have any more tweets before we move on to listener
Yeah,
emails?
I have got a few tweets. Stephen Watson got in touch, hashtag Gerry Anderson podcast. Such a wonderful start to each week. Thanks to all of you. Tone said, great start to last week's podcast. Caravaggio-esque. You're looking more like a Salvador Dali. Well, you'll have to go back and listen to that if you don't know what he's talking about. CJ says, I'm listening to the Couch Potatoes podcast that we mentioned last week, who were reviewing Gerry Anderson's Space Police pilot. I've noticed that they constantly keep getting Gerry's name wrong. Gary Anderson, indeed.
Oh.
We did wonder, didn't we, quite how well they knew their stuff.
Yeah.
We talked last time about your dad's lecture tour in the 90s, and Craig Johnson tweeted a picture of a programme from Tunbridge Wells. He said, Jamie, I went to your dad's lecture in the 90s at a theatre in Tunbridge Wells. A full house and a brilliant evening. And he posted the picture of the programme, and on the front it says, Gerry presents an audio-visual experience detailing the history of supermarination. He's helped by many of the original puppets and machines, loved by the young and the old the world over. So there. So were you there? Anyone else?
Have a look at this, Richard.
Yeah.
The listeners
What
won't be
have
able
you
to
got
see
there?
this.
That's a flash drive.
It's a flash drive which says GALT on it. And that is a transfer of some old video recordings from the Gerry Anderson lecture tour, which in time we'll be doing something with.
Fantastic.
So you can look forward to that on the YouTube channel eventually.
Great. And finally, Mark Simpson Wedge, after listening to today's Gerry Anderson podcast, I have a fab fact. Here we go. In the DVD commentary of the first episode of Captain Scarlet, Gerry described the Japanese opening version in one word: yuck. And I agree with him. You'd want to stop listening to it after 2 seconds. Well, Mark, that's your opinion, and there may be others, of course. But we were talking about the sort of variant openings around the world for various Gerry Anderson shows.
The Scarlet one is very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Scarlet music is so good. I kind of think, why would you replace that? But
Oh, absolutely.
there we go.
Yeah.
The Japanese distributors know their Japanese market better than we do.
You'd think. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Richard, should we
Yeah.
move ahead to listener emails, because we've got quite a few, and one which requires a lot of brain power.
Yes, it really does, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm glad you've got that one.
Yes, thanks. Right, well, I'll start us off, shall I?
Yeah.
Now, Roger wrote in with a lovely picture of a model he'd made for his nephew. So, do you know the Thunderbird 6 feature film, Richard?
Do you know, I'm not aware of the Thunderbird 6 feature film.
Well, it's from 1968, and it was the last stab for Thunderbirds, despite the failure of the Thunderbirds Are Go feature film in 1966. Blue Grey decided to give them one last shot, and so they made something called Thunderbird 6. Now, Thunderbird 6, it turned out, was a Tiger Moth plane. Yeah, which Alan and Tintin went on holiday, I think, in, and then it ended up being used to do a big rescue. It was all very dramatic.
Okay.
Anyway, they did actually fly a real Tiger Moth Thunderbird 6 for the film, including doing a touch and go underneath motorway bridges on the M4. Extremely
we've all had one of them.
dangerous. Yeah, haven't we? Depends who's driving.
Right.
Yeah, so there is a real Thunderbird 6. Now, Roger wrote, I've just made this model, Thunderbird 6, for my nephew, and someone said the real one is still flying. Would you by chance know where we could see her? It's a long shot, I know, but I don't know who else to ask. Now, as far as I know, that plane for a while was at White Waltham Airfield.
Oh, yeah.
In Berkshire.
Yeah, not a million miles from me, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very close. In fact, I
Yep.
have flown a plane out of White Waltham on a taster day, and that
Well,
was.
you probably flew over my house.
I may well have done, yes. I should have dropped something. Anyway,
Thanks.
pleasure. So we've dropped White Waltham an email. We haven't heard back yet, but if you know where the real Thunderbird 6 is, do email in podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, because we would love to track her down and find out more about her. So there we go. I thought that was quite an interesting one. A bit of an unusual email, finding a real
Yeah.
Thunderbird.
That's right. Can't imagine that. Yeah, that's great. I have an email here from Billy Brooks, who says, "Dear Rich and Jamie / Jamie and Richard." No, that's right, Billy. You were right
Covering
the
all
first
bases.
time. Yeah. Love the podcast. I'm a photography student based in Falmouth in Cornwall. How lovely. And it helps to make scanning and editing much more enjoyable. Well, I'm glad we're doing someone a service. Myself and a flatmate are working our way through the Anderson universe, and we've just finished watching UFO for the first time, which is now my all-time favourite. Hopefully we're starting The Protectors this week. Yeah, I think UFO might still be your all-time favourite. My question is, do you know if we are ever likely to see the UFO Countdown comics reprinted as a graphic novel? Thanks to your interview with Sophie Aldred, that's in pod number, Jamie...
Pod 5 or 4, I think.
I learnt about her dissertation on Thunderbirds and persuaded my lecturer to let me do my dissertation on Doctor Who, my other favourite show outside the worlds of Gerry Anderson, for which I got a 2-1. So thanks for the inspiration. Keep up the great work, and that's from Billy Brooks. UFO Countdown comics reprinted as a graphic novel.
Now, we've been looking into getting reprints of comics done recently, because people want to relive the visuals from their childhood. Now, a lot of them are actually really, really difficult to do, because publishers get closed down, get sold, the material gets sold, and then suddenly people are saying, well, who owns the copyright to the images? Is it reverted to the original artist? Is it the publisher? Is it the IP holder? Is it the IP holder at the time? And we recently tried to arrange for a particular reprint of a comic from a while back, and it just felt a bit... not the comic itself, the deal, because there were suddenly so many parties saying, oh no, because I need approval on that, oh I need approval on that, oh I'll have to provide that.
Yes, of course.
That. And it just becomes so complex and expensive, it becomes impossible. So I'm not saying it'll never happen, and we do want these things to happen, but at this stage, Billy, I think it's pretty unlikely, I'm sorry to say.
Yes.
So there you go. And now on a downer. Sorry, Billy. You're right there, Dickie.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just looking ahead at the email you're about to read out.
Oh, don't worry. So am I. Now,
Yeah.
I got an email. So we referred to this as anonymous listener because previously he hadn't signed off. But
That's
it's
right.
actually Terry from Hereford.
Hello, Terry from Hereford. From Terryford, in fact.
We call it Terryford now in Terry's honour. Now, Terry sent us a quiz last week.
Yeah.
Saying, can you connect the following film and TV people? Sherlock, Marie Antoinette, MI5, MI6, Jurassic Park, Lucille Ball and Jennifer Hart. Now, you had a good stab.
I had a good stab at Steven Spielberg because
You said
of
Steven
various
Spielberg,
connections.
but that fell over fairly
did,
quickly with
rather.
you sort of going, oh, I don't know, actually, I'm not really sure.
Well, at least I had a stab, Jamie.
You absolutely did. Now, the actual chain here is quite long, but I think we can illustrate it. We can definitely illustrate this for you fairly easily. So,
Okay, go on.
Okay, Sherlock, Richard. Let's just spitball Sherlock for a minute.
Right.
Tell me about a recent version of Sherlock.
Recent version of Sherlock?
Yeah.
Well, there was Elementary in the States, wasn't there?
Not that
Johnny Lee
recent.
Miller. Oh, okay.
UK one.
Not that recent. We're talking Jeremy Brett for Granada in the 1980s?
No, more recent than that.
More recent than that. Well, it's got to be Benedict Cumberbatch then with the BBC.
Absolutely. Now,
Right.
Who is Benedict Cumberbatch's mother?
Oh, Mrs. Cumberbatch.
Wanda Ventham,
Of course.
who played Colonel Virginia Lake in UFO.
Right.
Okay.
Park that one, yeah.
So part of that one.
Yeah.
Marie Antoinette.
Yes, what?
Well,
Cake? I mean, is there a connection there?
Well, is there a Doctor Who connection, perhaps?
With Marie Antoinette? Oh, she was in The Girl in the Fireplace, wasn't she?
Well, and who was the girl in the fireplace?
Well, that was our very own Sophia Myles.
It was indeed. Who played Lady Penelope in the 2004 Thunderbirds movie. Are you starting to get my drift?
I think so.
Perfect. Well, there we go. Basically, all of these clues eventually connect through to, as Terry puts it, the master of supermarionation, Gerry Anderson.
Fantastic.
Now, Terry, it was a bit cryptic.
It was rather,
It really
yes.
was. So
Yes.
I'm not quite sure how we possibly could have got that. But if you did get it at home, do email in podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. There's no prizes or anything, but yes, thanks for the cryptic quiz, Terry.
Yeah, no, that was good, Terry. If you've got a quiz for us, we'd love to see it. Anyone else out there, just send it through to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We'll have fun with that and we'll open it out to the listeners as well.
Yeah, why not? Thanks, Terry. And also, Terry, thank you very much for my birthday card, which you sent me over, which is very sweet of you.
He sent you a birthday card.
Yeah, he did, Richard. He gave me a birthday card. Funny that,
I
isn't
sent
it?
you a text.
I think
It was
sent
an
me a
abusive
WhatsApp,
text,
actually. Yeah, it was very abusive. I reported it straight to the police. Anyway, there we go, Richard. Have you got one more listener email? I think
I
you do.
have, yes. I've got one from Mark Perkins here. He says, did anyone see the Tenable episode on Thunderbirds? Tenable being, I think, a daytime BBC quiz with
Warwick Davis. Yeah.
He said the 10 answers they needed were the most frequent character appearances in the show Thunderbirds, according to IMDb. And he says, pause to have a guess. Right. The top 7 are easy. He says Jeff, the 5 Sons and Brains. I'm pretty sure they all appear in every show, but who to pick for the rest? It's going to be the top 3 out of Lady P, Parker, Tintin, Grandma, Kyrano and the Hood. I went for Lady P and Parker at 8 and 9, and after much deliberation, Tintin at 10. And I was right. Tintin made more appearances than the Hood.
There's a fab fact right there.
There you go. On another note, I too am reappraising Secret Service. Well, I've got a series of tweets about that in a moment. The stories, says Mark, are ludicrous. The casting of Stanley Unwin is bonkers, and the whole concept makes no sense, but the puppetry and effects are outstanding. I watched the episode on the HD 21 disc and laughed out loud when Captain Scarlet turned up in a wig with a silly voice. But I now want to see more of this lost gem. Keep up the great work with the podcasts. Oh, Podcats, he calls us. That's good, isn't it?
Podcats.
I like that.
Yeah, okay.
From Mark Perkins. Thanks
Cheers,
very
Mark.
much, Mark. Yeah, Secret Service.
Well, it's the 50th anniversary of the show this year, so you know, if you haven't tried it, you should give it a good go.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very quirky.
Right, yes.
You have to watch it with an open mind.
Yeah. Now, that reminded me, because we did have a series of tweets from Cinemarionette this week that I thought was rather
dear
interesting.
old Ben, or dear young
Yeah.
Ben, I should say.
There you go. Now, it says, Gerry Anderson fans aren't always charitable to the Secret Service, but I have to say I really love it. Father Unwin could be my favourite Anderson hero. He's the antithesis of the all-American hero type. He's an elderly gentleman who depends on his brains more than brute force. In addition to his large-scale acts of heroism, Unwin is an ordinary priest preaching in an ordinary church. His sermons are simplistic, certainly, but heartfelt and worthy of reflection. To me, at least, they come across as humble rather than didactic. He could be Reverend James Bond, but he lets other younger men fill those shoes. Instead, he focuses on helping those around him. An attitude of service, rather than the attitude of bombast displayed by Troy Tempest or Steve Zodiac at times. And the gobbledygook that is Unwinnies is always a delight to listen to. That and the usual Anderson fare of terrific model effects, explosions and spy-fi adventures make for a great series cancelled before its time. Also, Gabriel, the Model T of your dreams. Yeah, much to enjoy in Secret Service.
That's a nice review. I thought you were going to go into some Unwinnies there. You said much to enjoy.
I know. Wouldn't that be great? We should do a whole podcast in Unwinnies one day, shouldn't we?
I don't know how we would do that. I mean, even doing an intro in Unwinnies would be virtually impossible. Maybe we could write one. Or if you can write us an intro script in Unwinnies, then email it into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
I'll do my best Stanley Unwin impression. That'd be lovely. For those of you who aren't aware, Stanley Unwin was a sort of I guess he started in sort of music hall, didn't he? And became quite a famous TV personality in his own right. Professor Stanley Unwin, he called himself, I think.
He did.
And he basically invented another language, a bonkers language.
Yeah.
Before Klingon was ever invented.
It's nicer to listen to than Klingon, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can just about make out what he's saying. That's the joy of it. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ben, for your tweet. Thanks, Richard, for collating things. And that's the end of our listener emails segment. If you want to send something in, chuck it into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, whether it's a voice message or some written words or a video of you doing some interpretive dance, suggesting a question or a review of a particular Gerry Anderson episode. Please do send those things in, and we'll do our best to read them out or translate them from said interpretive dance.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, I'm so looking forward to this interview, Jamie.
Yes, me too. It was really great speaking to
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
So let's go straight over to
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
And hear what
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV
has to say.
I'm Adam Hardwick. I'm head of television at Forces TV.
Amazing. And what is Forces TV, Adam?
Forces TV is a mixture of military-themed entertainment and factual, and it's on Sky, Freesat, Virgin and Freeview.
Okay. And who is it aimed at? I mean, that may sound like a stupid question, but with the name like Forces TV, but why does it exist?
So Forces TV, obviously the clue's in the name. It is home to our own factual and news content, which champions the British Armed Forces, the Armed Forces community and veterans. And there's also some relatively sort of military-themed content around that as well. And we've expanded documentaries and factual into light drama, into action and into comedy.
Okay. And obviously, most relevantly for our Anderson audience, the most recent Anderson additions to your roster are UFO, which have been showing for some time now, and very recently Space 1999. How did that come about?
So, personally, I'm a big fan of all things sort of cult TV, especially British cult TV, and obviously Anderson stuff. And it was probably the Anderson stuff for me that sort of widened my interest way back when. So when we were looking at Forces TV, we grew the schedule by adding comedies like MASH and dramas at the time like Danger UXB and Wish Me Luck, which was an ITV sort of wartime spy drama from the 90s, and we grew our audience, and we found that people enjoyed those, so we started to rack our brains. And me then, with any of these things, without turning it into a sort of a passion project, I was like, oh well, actually, what about? And so I'd looked around and I thought, well, UFO at the time hadn't been on UK TV. There are military ranks, there's a bit of action, maybe this is a route to take. So with my colleague in acquisitions, we had a look and, we made it happen. And the audiences loved it. The audiences got in touch with us, and we've had a great relationship with UFO. We've shown it quite a few times, and it never disappoints the audiences, and it never disappoints us.
What a lovely summary. So, I mean, I keep seeing tweets and we keep getting emails about it as well. So it's clearly, reached a wider audience than than just the Forces-related community, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. So Forces TV here in the UK is obviously open for everyone, and when you widen the schedule to include military-themed factual and entertainment, obviously then the audience is going to be wider because they are familiar titles from the past. Hogan's Heroes is another one. MASH, they are things that they're titles that people relate to, so they will come to the channel. In terms of UFO, for example, or others, or we can go into Space 1999 shortly, but in terms of UFO, a huge fan base, and also in things such as, if we could sort of get into the minutiae of it, in things such as, creating the trailers that we play on screen and the trailers that we make for social media. My team have had a huge amount of fun. Let's put that first for once. It's, we had a huge amount of fun putting those together. And I think that the audiences see that as well. I mean, UFO's got that, UFO or UFO has that fantastic opening title sequence and the music that, and equally, we really, over here, we really got involved with all the Barry Gray incidental music from UFO as well. And the whole suite is on YouTube and stuff. And it's been, an absolute delight, to be honest with you.
I'm glad you said that. Obviously, you're going to say that to me, though. I don't mind you.
Well, of course, of course.
I can tell. I've looking at your social media and stuff, I can see how much love there is for it. And how does it rank, kind of out of interest? You don't have to give me a precise number, but how does it compare in terms of popularity with the rest of the shows on your roster?
I would say, it's by far our hit show. To date.
Correct answer.
Correct answer. And it has allowed us to go on a journey into other sci-fi. So we did have some US sci-fi as well and things, and all around that military theme, sort of rank tech kit. It's been great. But actually, UFO repeatedly is one of our fondest programmes series. Let's say that.
I'm very, very glad to hear it. Quite right too. Was that an unexpected hit?
Well, if you're asking Adam Hardwick, the person, then no. if you're asking, Forces TV, the channel, well, obviously we wanted it to be a hit. Of course we did. I think it was a gamble. I'm pleased that internally here we were allowed to take that gamble, because at that point, if you put Danger UXB followed by UFO, it's a slight gear change, isn't it? Let's face it. So but actually, it we're allowed to do it. We've had some great fun with the scheduling, with the presentation, with the marketing, and also the feedback. It's the fan base. It's those that appreciate that television era, the production, the Anderson stable. Those that appreciate that, they get in touch, and that makes it all for us.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, if you have been watching UFO on Forces, listeners, then do drop them a line and show them your appreciation, because I'm sure they'd appreciate that. Now, Adam, it's clearly done well enough that you've picked up another Anderson show, Space 1999. Was that to me feels a little bit less military themed, but still with the kind of the ranks and the tech and stuff. Was that more of a stretch for Forces, or was it just a natural progression now that UFO has been so popular?
I think it's an interesting one. Obviously, in the meetings back here, probably the first part of your question is, okay, well, we have to look at that, but for me as a fan, and for me as a scheduler or as a programmer of the channel, given the feedback and the response we had to UFO or UFO, can I ask you a question? Is it UFO or do you say UFO?
I would always say UFO.
You would?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So if you've been saying otherwise or feel differently, then I'm not saying you're wrong, Adam. I'm just saying that I would say UFO.
Okay. I just did it. I've corrected myself. I'm thinking, really? Am I? Anyway, let's get back to it, Jamie. I think it was a natural progression on screen. once we'd done UFO, there were fan requests and things. Quite rightly, why don't you try Captain Scarlet? Why don't you try Joe 90? Yeah. We could, but actually, I think UFO to Space 1999 was an obvious transition. As I mentioned earlier, we did Buck Rogers and we did Battlestar Galactica, and Space 1999 became available quite recently to us. So here we are. Yeah,
and it's fantastic. Now, Adam, this is the bit you've been really looking forward to. Some viewers who watched Breakaway, the first episode of Space 1999 on Forces recently, noticed just a tiny blip, a little tiny error, something missing, which you guys have been very gracious about owning up to and fixing. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, would you like me to tell you what happened in my living room that evening?
Sounds like a great place to start, because it may have also been a scene that played out in living rooms across the UK.
I'm laughing now, I wasn't laughing then, and if anybody believes me, I was watching at home. I hope I've conveyed that I am a fan of all these kind of things. So I was delighted that we were able to bring the programme to the channel. You will have seen our pre-publicity. We've had some great fun, again, I use that word, in the edit suite with our trailers and our coming soon trailers. And I will give a shout out to Martin Bridges, who's our promotions producer. We're a very small team here. We're actually part of a charity that entertains the armed forces overseas. But we're a charity, and we've had some great fun making the trailers. So yes, we'd built up to this monumentous moment in the career of Adam Hardwick, quite a big one as well, personally. Sat down for the evening. Adam's brand new schedule there was The Equalizer with Edward Woodward before, and then Space 1999, great. And, well, I don't know. I'm not normally short of words, but the other side of the ad break, I thought, hang on, that doesn't work like that. So I didn't sleep much the next night. I was wondering, what do I do? How do I know I'm going to get a bit of a storm on this, but actually, first and foremost, what on earth happened? Would we have edited the programme to do that? Would we have controlled that? No, absolutely not. So What on earth happened? And this bit, Jamie, this is a true story. All of it's true anyway. I've not lied yet. But this bit's particularly true. I drove to work wanting sleep. I drove to work. I was in early. I was stuck behind a lorry on the M40 from Koenig Transport in the Netherlands. And that is true. That is true. Koenig Transport in the Netherlands. I thought, my God, this is it now. This is going to make it.
The universe was mocking you.
Absolutely, they were. That is true. Like it said under the lorry pulled in front of me under the Handy Cross roundabout on the M40. If anybody knows that. Yeah. So it followed me. Well, I followed it all the way. Anyway, so you know what kind of day we were going to have, and it was really, really, really unfortunate, bad luck, rotten luck, gutting for us. We put so much into it. We knew what this show means to so many people, and it was a fault on transmission, and that's all I can say. It's just bad luck. One of those things. At that moment, the pivotal moment that sets up the whole series, you can't write. Much like this interview, you can't write it, can you? So
no, you absolutely can't. No, and it was brilliant. And so, for anybody who's not 100% clear, the period across the ad break, for whatever reason, the main event, the nuclear explosion and the Earth being ripped out of Earth's orbit, the moon being ripped out of Earth's orbit, that whole sequence was missing from the transmission. So the bit that explains the whole series was gone. So terrible luck for you guys, but by the time this goes out, you will have reshown Breakaway in its entirety, which is very good news.
That's right. So we there are some times when you're in the business of purchasing archive titles, as we are, There are some requirements from an Ofcom license perspective that, in terms of the code, the broadcaster's code, and the guidance around, what was acceptable then in terms of decency, language, on television, what was acceptable then might not be acceptable now. So there is a compliance process that all of these archive shows have to go to, not just for Forces TV. This is for everybody that broadcasts these channels, so UK TV and Talking Pictures and all of that. They all have to do that. Now, in our process for Space 1999, we had made a commitment, because we're huge fans of the series, we'd made a commitment that we would show the series as uncut as we could.
Yep.
So there is a slight caveat there, and there is that if something contravened Ofcom guidelines for 2019, so where we are now, I grew up knowing Space 1999 to be something that was on Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons or whatever, and the world, for rightly or wrongly, is in a different place now. But what we do have to watch out for, especially with the Gerry Anderson shows, are the trademark Gerry Anderson explosions and things that do have a lot of flashing and repeated images. So those have to be looked at through a PSE, photosensitive epilepsy test, or Harding test. And actually, it was a couple of flashes in that explosion sequence where the error has occurred in our conform of the episode. So that's a little bit of behind the scenes detail. I hope everyone's not fallen asleep at that point.
No, we love that. We love stuff like this, Adam, because it's interesting.
So I have to say, even though I'm saying it's uncut and it's unadulterated, there are some things that we just can't go with. Commander Straker in UFO, obviously he liked a cigarello or two, so you do have to put those in balance. It's the time of day that the show is going to go out and things like that, so we do have to take that into account. So back to Space 1999 and those missing moments. It was around that the edits that we had to do to take some of the flashes out or tone some of the flashes down. That was the source of the problem, which took us quite a while to get to. We were going to put it right. We have put it right. I have to say, much respect to everyone that got in touch, and even more so for those that, once they'd had our explanation, actually got back in touch and said, great, really appreciate you explaining that. Because quite rightly, there was some hurt there. Well, there was more than that. There was more than that, but there was some hurt. I it's great to be talking to you at this juncture. We can let the audience into a secret that we were going to chat anyway, weren't we? But here we are talking. I thought, Jamie, you might have ignored me or said, no, I'm not talking to them. I'm not talking to those amateurs.
You were blocked, but I forgot to block your phone number.
Okay, good. But I was devastated. I saw it myself, so hopefully I'm explaining myself clearly enough. There was a lot of hurt. There was anger, possibly. Let's be honest.
I think there was frustration, wasn't there? Because people are so grateful, actually, that you guys are showing it, and that you are you treat it with so much love and respect. I think that almost made it worse, Adam. If you were one of those channels that just sort of, we'll put it into the schedule because we've got to fill some time up, it would be different. But because you guys love it and you're kind of out there promoting it and showing all these amazing explosions and stuff on social, when it's suddenly missing,
I know.
I can feel they're frustrated. But honestly, you dealt with it so well, and I think everyone can tell that there's a lot of love at Forces for the shows.
Well, that's good.
Well done.
I'm delighted to hear that, and as I say, much respect to all the fans. Thank you for getting in touch, and also thank you for expressing your sympathy when you've heard us out as well, because I really appreciate that. Because why on earth would we remove that deliberately? No, it was just one of those things, and and I was there.
Yeah, I bet you were. Well, these things happen. It's fine. It's sorted. Now, key question: how far into Space 1999 are you going? Do you have both years? And Are you going to show it in sequence? Are we going to end up mixing years 1 and 2 eventually? What are the plans in the schedule roughly?
So after Tuesday night's antics, it's very much human decision required from now on. But
Very good.
very nice. I rehearsed that. Now, no, we have both seasons. I'm delighted to say we have both seasons. I know that divides everyone, but then we love a good conversation, don't we?
Absolutely.
And it is very much our intention to play them all in a row weeknights at 10 and catch up at the weekend.
Amazing. Okay.
And then
That's
after that, we will hopefully see the return of UFO as well, with some reconforms of the shows as well. So we've got the original masters. So both UFO and Space 1999 for interest were supplied to us by ITV Global Entertainment in full sort of HD remastered form. We have a complete HD workflow here, but we don't broadcast in HD, obviously, in the UK, because that would be... Yeah. Some undertaking for a small outfit as ours, but we've decided to actually with the way that we're treating Space 1999, we will do the same with UFO, and we're going to reprocess those and hopefully show those in a slightly longer, later night, sort of unedited where possible form.
Fantastic.
With those caveats for Ofcom compliance.
Yeah. I think everyone appreciates the Ofcom requirements. So nothing you can do about that. But yes, again, we can all tell you're treating it with love, Adam. So that's much appreciated.
Can I? Because there is one question that gets us every time, if I may, with UFO identified, there is a scene where very early on where Straker blows cigarette ash off his desk, and we can't work out why he does that. Has anybody ever discussed that?
No, they have not, and I can't answer that question. But one of our listeners will almost undoubtedly be able to answer that question. So if you can answer Adam's question, please send an email to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and we'll pass the answer over to Forces. And if nobody can, then perhaps you've just uncovered one of the greatest UFO mysteries of all time.
Oh, see, that's great on both accounts. Both counts. That's great. That's absolutely great. We look here and we say, why is that? And we were looking at them the other day actually, and thought, why does he do that? Why does he do that? So yeah, great stuff.
Sorry, Adam, no clue. Can I turn to you personally, Adam? Because you'd mentioned earlier on that you did grow up on some Anderson stuff. Yeah. And again, it's nice to talk about the kind of the broader business side and get the sense of the love from the community at Forces TV. But what about you? Where did your Anderson connection, your Anderson enjoyment start? I had, I still do have an older brother. He's 9 years older than me, and he, I always remember he had the Eagle Transporter Dinky model and the Shadow Mobile model. So those are my first Anderson product recollections, if you like. Telly-wise, so I grew up in the east of the East Midlands, so I remember ATV and Central showing Thunderbirds on Sunday afternoons at about 2:00. So that's my first memory. And then through my early childhood in the 80s, things like Stingray and Fireball XL5 are on sort of ITV on the summer holiday mornings, I think, sort of 9:30 in the morning. So I remember all of those, and I had a cousin as well who was really into all the Gerry Anderson stuff, and he was a little bit older than me, but we used to chat about them, and really it just sort of stemmed from there. So my personal interest in sort of classic 60s, 70s British TV actually did start with Anderson, and I would say those Thunderbirds reruns and then on to Stingray and Fireball XL5, and then you go on a journey from there. I think Joe 90 was around as well at those time of those Thunderbirds reruns in the afternoons as well. Fantastic. And if you had to say your favourite, Adam, knowing that you'll immediately offend, at least 50% of the Gerry Anderson audience by even putting your flag in the ground, do you have a favourite Gerry Anderson series?
Favourite Gerry Anderson series would have to be UFO. Would have to be.
Oh, of course. Very on brand of you.
But no, no. We'll just wipe away this corporate nonsense now. But yeah, I'm very on message, of course. But no, UFO is by far, and my first experience of that was when TV in the ITV regions went overnight. And I think on Anglia and London Weekend, they did a thing called Night Network, and they showed Captain Scarlet. But Central showed the New Avengers, which is a top series. Then they also followed with UFO, and that was the first time I saw it. Some real, with hindsight, some real jumbled up ordering around UFO on those overnight repeats. But yeah, I loved the mixture of, future Earth and future space and a bit of sci-fi, but also the domestic side of things as well, without getting too sort of soapy. And I think when you see UFO now, and without getting sort of, too corporate about it, if you like, but UFO is so inclusive. It's so inclusive. And I think that's often not recognised, because I think, it's a Gerry Anderson show. It's it's cult TV, but it's very inclusive. Also, often people say things like the Sweeney. Oh yeah, but the Sweeney was groundbreaking because at the end they didn't always get it right. They didn't always win. I think there's a lot of that in UFO, which predates the Sweeney from 7 years or so.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are so many elements of it which are actually quite advanced, and you have to remember that the team that were doing this, it was their first foray into live action.
Yeah.
So they were really pushing the boundaries, and you're right. Things like people of colour being main characters, women in very senior roles, and entirely operating the moon base.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was very forward thinking for something that was made in 69, 70.
Absolutely, and we have just even internally here at Forces TV, people across my team. I've got a range of ages across the team, so I have members of the team who have never seen UFO, and actually that's what they're coming back with. They're saying, wow, this is diverse, this is inclusive. Also, it's great fun and great entertainment. And wow, look at that explosion and the detail of the models and all of that.
Yeah.
And the slight tongue-in-cheekness that we take with immense affection as well.
Yes, of course. I mean, there are certain elements which are less progressive. I'm thinking particularly of Time Lash, I think, where a chap's been caught in time staring down somebody's top.
True. That's not so inclusive, folks. Yes, no, don't listen to that bit. No.
It's not always perfect, but,
no.
Yeah, but for the age of it, it's amazing. Now, it can't just be nostalgia that keeps people coming back and keeps the audience watching these old shows on Forces TV. So can you, from your love of UFO and from getting feedback from the audience, are you able to tell what it is about these Gerry Anderson shows that keeps people coming back? Because there's plenty of content that was made in the late 60s and 70s which people would never dream of watching now. They certainly wouldn't make the effort to tune in to watch it. So what are the aspects do you think that keep people coming back?
I think that I think with all of us there's a safety in nostalgia. And there's a warm, fuzzy feeling, and there's comfort in nostalgia, just like looking through a photo album or something. And a photo album mostly captures happy moments. There are always things that then trigger other stories and backstories that may not be so happy. But on first glance, and I think the Gerry Anderson series, the Supermarination shows, and then the live action shows, touched so many people over the span of their airtime, and then of course they were repeated a lot. We didn't have that network ITV structure as we do now, so they were often repeated and syndicated more, and then they've been shown around the world in the same kind of vein. That they just touched a lot of people at that time, and of course, let's just say they were fantastic shows. So I just think it's warm and nostalgia, and I just in the same way as I'm a huge fan of The Prisoner and Patrick McGoohan, and there are only 17 episodes of that, and I can watch those as if they were new each time.
Fascinating. I cannot watch the last episode of The Prisoner without getting angry. I'm afraid to say.
It's if we're going, we'll perhaps get together and talk about The Prisoner another day. But actually, yes, that episode is not the best. It's not the best. It's not the long sleep. It's not the long sleep by a long chalk.
No, absolutely. Well, we can agree on that bit of The Prisoner and discuss the rest of the day. Now, Adam, I will let you go in a moment because I know you've got lots to do. Is there any future for additional Anderson shows on Forces, do you think, or have we reached the limit of what is appropriate for your audience at the moment?
I think, I'll be honest with you, we have wondered and have discussed ourselves around the Supermarionation shows. I think the likelihood of those coming to Forces TV in the near future are slim. We have to look first and foremost. Although I've sort of waxed lyrical there about nostalgia and everybody's grown up now and things, but the Supermarionation shows are in a way still considered sort of children's shows, even though that I don't think they are per se myself, but I think that does have an impact on how we run our channel and the editorial of the channel, because we don't have any other sort of children's content on there, and that does have an impact on your workflow and your compliance and your whole perception and channel expectation, which we need to take into account, because as I was saying earlier, we are a small outfit and we're part of a charity that does sort of much wider things. So we have to manage our own expectations accordingly. So I think for the time being, we have a long way to go with Space 1999. And a very enjoyable future ahead with that, I do hope. And if it is anything like the experience we've had with UFO over, I think about 18 months now.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a gift that keeps on giving in terms of enjoyment and feedback. So I hope Space 1999 does the same, and
sure it will.
And you'll be the first to know when we add add to the schedule after that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I reckon a little bit of Captain Scarlet or even a bit of Space Precinct might go down nicely. But it's not for me to say.
That's a good shout, and we did especially Captain Scarlet actually, because you've got the ranks there and the.
It's a bit darker.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the UFO of the Supermarionation shows. Anyway,
okay. I like it.
Take that to the buying people.
I shall.
See what they say. Anyway, we don't mind that there may be no more. We hope there will be other shows. But the fact that you're doing UFO and Space 1999 is awesome. I think everyone's very grateful. So please keep doing what you're doing. Adam, if people want to find Forces, how do they do that in the UK? Okay,
in the UK we're on Sky 181, Freesat 165, Virgin 277 and Freeview 96.
Fantastic. And if they want to go to your website or Facebook page or Twitter, how do they find those?
Okay, so the website is forces.net/ForcesTV, and our Twitter is at Forces_TV, and our Facebook is Forces TV channel.
Fantastic. And I suggest, dear listeners, if you've enjoyed the fact that Forces has shown these shows, or you've enjoyed Adam's detailed technical explanation of the breakaway fault or anything else, then get in touch with them on those platforms and let them know that you're happy. And also maybe let them know that you'd like to see Captain Scarlet or other Anderson shows. It might just sway them a little bit. You never know. Adam, thank you very much indeed for your time. I really appreciate it.
Great to chat with you, Jamie. Really enjoyed it.
Hopefully we'll speak again when, maybe when you hit year 2 of Space 1999 and see what the reaction is to that, or if there's any other Anderson news in the future. But until then, thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, speak again soon. Let's do that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, I certainly enjoyed that interview with
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
Yeah, it's great. So nice to hear from
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. I really enjoyed chatting to
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
And I wish them all the best. So thank you very much.
Adam Hardwick from Forces TV.
Great, lovely for them
talking.
to give you some of their time.
Yes, and next week's interview will be. Well, I don't know. I don't know who next week's interview is because I'm a bit far behind. I'm really sorry.
It's all falling apart, isn't it?
No, don't say that.
No, I didn't mean that at all.
No, it's just been really, really busy. Well, you know, we've had lots and lots of stuff on.
Yes.
So, Richard.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go slightly off topic here for a minute.
Oh, joy.
I understand that you've got a book coming out in due course.
Oh, yeah, I have actually.
You want to tell us a bit about that?
I'd love
to. We haven't prepared this plug, listeners, but I am genuinely interested. It does look really cool. So go on, Richard.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not Gerry Anderson related at all, I'm afraid.
Doesn't matter.
But it's my first novel. It's called The Head in the Ice.
Great title.
And it follows the investigations of Inspector George Bowman of Scotland Yard into the discovery of a head in some ice.
Brilliant. Does what it says on the tin.
Absolutely, yes. It's one New Year's Eve, a severed head is discovered in the frozen waters of the Thames. And Inspector Bowman is a rather troubled character, has issues of his own to resolve throughout the investigation. And it's the first of, I hope, 4 novels. I'm working on the second at the moment.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but it's available for pre-order on Amazon and Kobo and Nook and all that sort of stuff. And, if you head over to bowmanoftheyard.co.uk, you can learn all about it and maybe pre-order your copy.
And that's Bowman spelled Bowman?
Exactly right.
OFTHEYARD.
Yeah, I think we know how to spell of the yard.
Well, I'm just checking. Anyway.
Yeah, sounds great. You can pick up your a free short story as well called The Smithfield Murder, which is only available for subscribers.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah,
so, listeners, if you have enjoyed even a minute or two of a single episode of this podcast, let alone more, and you're grateful to Richard for his witty interjections and other stuff, then do pop over and sign up and pick up that free short story, because I know he'd be rather grateful.
Ah, absolutely. Yes, thank you, Jamie.
And I'm not on commission, but maybe I should.
No, you're certainly not on commission. Make that absolutely clear.
Anyway, make sure you subscribe to this podcast. We don't always do plugs like that, do we, Richard? In fact, I think that's the first ever plug we've done for a non-Gerry Anderson thing.
That's true.
But
mind you, it's the only thing I've ever done of any interest, really. So
it's a non-Gerry Anderson thing.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to reading it. So now it's time for Richard's favourite section. Care
fantastic.
of the wonderful Chris Dale.
Yes.
It's
the Randomiser.
I thought we were going to say random and you were going to say Isa, but okay.
Oh, well, we could do that.
Okay, fine. It's the... Oh, no. It's...
No. The...
Random.
Oh, I thought you were going to say ran and I was going to say dumb.
Oh, let's just listen to the Randomizer.
The station that's great from the 1 to 8. Ah, no, not Honey Crunch Krispies again.
We do advertise them, you know. They gave us a year's free supply.
Yes, Rick, and frankly, I don't know what you're complaining about. Marina and I are really enjoying ours. Anyway, what we've come up here today to ask you both about is maybe getting the Gerry Anderson podcast broadcast on KLA. After all, I'm sure you can say you're a big fan.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Oh.
I doubt if anyone was foolish enough to be tuned in.
Well, don't underestimate our listeners, Lohman. They are quite... who's up for pressing the button on the randomizer for me? Lohman?
I've got more important things to think about.
Okay, Rick?
O'Shea, Rick. O'Shea. Kid can do it.
Well, since you're the closest thing we have...
Very funny. We're on the air in half an hour.
Oh, then we'd better get this out of the way, hadn't we?
That's it. That's great. I got it.
Fantastic.
Well, fingers crossed. And Marina, if you could just pass me the printout. Thank you very much.
What do you think?
Yes, that's a pretty good choice and rather appropriate considering what's going to end up happening to you two.
What's the problem?
Oh, nothing. Anyway, we're back with Fireball XL5 today for Flight to Danger. Marina, will you stop fiddling with that button? So here we are, back with Fireball XL5, and this is another episode I am quite familiar with because it was, again, one of the few that I had on video as a kid on Volume 6 of the Fireball VHS tapes.
Zodiac, sir. I'll have a ride in a minute.
A minute's too long, Lieutenant. Get her under control now.
Above all, don't get distracted by people yelling at you. That could make it worse. Yeah, this was the first episode on Volume 6, the final volume of Fireball XL5 on the ITC Home Video label, and interesting story behind how I came to acquire that tape. I actually, for my birthday one year, this would be, 95, 96-ish, I, having enjoyed the episodes on Volume 4, I put in an order at Our Price. Do you remember Our Price? I remember Our Price. For, they started putting out tapes of 2 episodes of Fireball and 2 episodes of Supercar, and I thought, well, I'd like some more Fireball, but I'd also like to try Supercar, so I'll put in an order for that first combo tape, and instead this is what came up. They sent through this tape, the Volume 6 tape with this episode on, instead of what I asked for. But since I loved Fireball so much at the time, didn't bother me. I had 4 episodes instead of just 2 to enjoy.
Let's see how you do a touchdown right now.
But Steve, I'm not ready.
Guess I'm the best judge of that. Now take her down.
Yes, I waffled over the setup of this one quite a bit. So Lieutenant 90 is in training for his astronaut's wings, which are apparently very important if he wants to become an astronaut. He's got a lot of sweat on his puppet brow there. I love the puppet sweat thing. It's one of those things you can see sort of evolve over time. When you get to like the Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet era, it looks quite realistic. It's sort of genuinely dotted. In this black and white era, they just sort of plaster it on with a hose.
The commander could be right. He usually is.
I did go through a phase a few years back of really not liking this show. I think because the writing is fairly basic and the characters can take about half an hour just to work out how to open a door sometimes.
But who gets all the worries? Me!
But so far I'm really enjoying revisiting this show on the Randomizer. Especially with episodes that I'm so familiar with, like this one.
Reduce power. You'll have to reduce power!
And so with 90 on Fireball, Robert is working in Space City Control for, I think, the first and probably only time in the history of the series. Not sure if that ever happened again.
Lieutenant, the starboard wing, get it up!
Lift starboard wing! Lift starboard wing! Yeah, very unorthodox landing from Fireball here at Space City, but Lieutenant 90's done the job. He's got her down safely. Jolly good show, sir.
And what a mess I made of it, Colonel. I'll never be a full controller at this rate.
XL5 crew, report to Space City.
Oh, so he's not just training to be an astronaut, he's training to be a controller? I thought he already was the deputy controller, essentially being Zero's right-hand man, but I guess not.
Is all this gear necessary, Dr. Venus? It's making my head ache.
And here we see once again Venus's expert doctoring in action. She's wired 90 up to... Well, the machine has a dial on it with the word amps, which probably can't be good. He's connected with about 50 cables, which seemed to be a peculiar eccentricity of Venus. It was like she enjoyed hooking people up to machines with lots of cables.
Stand by. Stand by. Prepare XL1 for blast off.
I suppose in her mind it's sort of a supplement to any actual medical knowledge or ability. Just keep attaching wires to people and hope that nobody catches on you don't know anything.
Release winches and stand by for liftoff.
XL1 was a fairly regularly used sort of backup ship, I seem to recall. They had this footage of the launch sequence and of the ship being lowered onto the ramp via winches that they reused quite a bit. It was useful time filler. I think it was first appeared in, was it Plant Man from Space, and what's his name? Ross crashed it. Well, we've now got XL1 back again, and it's off. Oh! I was going to say it's off the ramp, but they actually used the shot from Plant Man in Space where it goes over the hill and then looks like it's about to crash, but no, he's made it. And this story, getting the junior member of our little team to train to be an astronaut is probably more familiar to Anderson viewers because this story was essentially reused in Stingray in Rescue from the Skies with Lieutenant Fisher in place of Lieutenant 90. And it's a concept that sort of returned through various other sci-fi shows. If you look at Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the opening sequence of that, where they're in the test simulator and everyone gets killed, is almost an exact copy of the opening of Rescue from the Skies. So it's interesting to look at this episode and think, well, Rescue from the Skies was in itself a copy of this episode.
A perfect touchdown.
I love 90s self-congratulations there. Yeah, it's interesting. This was the...
I commanded a ship.
Oh, yeah, this was the sort of origin of that, at least within the Anderson universe, and yet Rescue from the Skies gets the nod. And this one doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Again, that's a common issue with Fireball. It doesn't get as much attention as Stingray, even though they are essentially the same basic formats. And it's all down to that thing of it's in black and white, which I don't think is an issue at all. But obviously, in modern broadcast landscape, if broadcasters have got a choice between this or Stingray, we know which one they're going to pick. And it won't be the one in black and white. I love this trick as well. Flat jazz. Oh, what? Okay, so they're having a party at Venus's. Everyone's sitting around having a good time. Zuni is dancing.
Right now, I'm just not gonna think about tomorrow.
And he's holding a gun. Is this...
Checks complete, Steve. And okay.
I hope this isn't a real gun, but it certainly looks like one. And he's waving it around.
Blast off time is at 9.
And I'm not convinced with the XL5 crew's the XL5 crew wouldn't leave a loaded gun lying around for anyone to pick up. That's not going to end well. As indeed is Lieutenant 90's spaceflight, the reactor on the rocket that's about to launch. It's just fallen off the wall. Started smouldering there. Not good.
Gee, it sure is cramped in here.
Yeah, 90. That's one of the hazards of wanting to be a controller. Stick with it and keep cool.
What's the difference here between being an astronaut and being a controller?
Read green, Commander.
Roger, Steve. Lift.
Wouldn't a controller, control things, be telling other people what to do?
We'll be waiting for you.
I mean, if he wants to be an astronaut, then yeah, this sending him into space makes sense. If he wants to be a controller of Space City, then why are you sending him into space? Not sure. So it's off to space for Lieutenant 90. The atomic reactor, which was smouldering earlier, has just fallen off the wall and landed in a pile of fuel canisters. This is not good news. But it's a very nice rocket launch, considering this is quite an early series. Lots of fuel tanks and sort of smouldering hoses around in the XL5 rocket launches. You can see the wire quite visible. They're making no effort to hide that, but the rest of the launch looks really good. And what I like about this one, especially, and also with Rescue from the Skies as well, is this focus on someone who is essentially a minor character, but it doesn't forget that they have their own sort of goals and ambitions. 90 wants to be a full-fledged astronaut or controller, whatever that is, and Fisher wants to be a full aquanaut, and otherwise they're just sort of standing around saying yes, Commander, and no, Commander, and...
Second stage away, Steve.
There's a nice selection of characters in this show. It's nice that 90 gets his moment in the spotlight here.
Bit different to Fireball with his
Although the gravity's just gone in his capsule, and clipboards and pencils and various other things are floating around, dangled on the end of very visible wires. But again, it's just so charming.
The lieutenant's pulse rate is increasing steadily, Steve.
Yeah, that's a very comprehensive pulse rate chart you've got there, Venus. It just fluctuates between minimum and maximum. I would hope you'd want maybe a slightly more precise indication of on how he's doing physically.
He has proved he can stand the psychological strain of being completely alone in space.
But he's not completely alone in space. This is something I've never understood. You guys are right there behind him, and he knows it, and he's in constant contact with you. And as we can see, he's about to get into serious difficulties, so it's a good job they're there, but I don't understand this sort of, he's meant to be completely alone, bar for the fact that he's not completely alone. And here we have Fireball XL5's idea of the moon. As with the moon in all Gerry Anderson shows up to Space 1999, the moon looks very unlike the real thing.
For my money, the lieutenant's on his way to getting his...
But again, this is getting on for 60 years old. This is made before the moon landings and before the Apollo program was really underway.
There'd be a warning along.
Guess you're right, Matt. Okay,
And it's really quite something to think that this is like just a piece of history.
6 seconds.
Because we've kept these Supermarionation shows alive in our lives and imaginations for so long that they still feel so fresh to us. And sometimes you forget they are very, very old.
Steve, the capsule's on fire.
Don't panic, Lieutenant. Matt, what could have happened?
The reactor must have broken free.
I knew I shouldn't have used blue tack to hold it to the wall, but I didn't have anything else, Steve.
Jettison fuel now.
We'll catch up with you and come across.
I really love this sequence. It's extremely dramatic, and
Hello, Colonel Zodiac.
it does a superb job of building the threat. You genuinely believe that Lieutenant 90 is in serious trouble, especially once they lose contact here. The fact that his ship's on fire, and he's not got the equipment to deal with it. There isn't even a fire extinguisher on board.
Gotta get out of here. Must put on thruster pack.
Thruster pack is already on fire, and also this music. I don't think it was composed for this episode. It must have been an earlier one, but it fits this scene so well.
Okay, eject.
Take care, Steve.
And what's also very clever about the earlier tension in this sequence, it's been replaced with this sort of, okay, we've caught up to the capsule, we're heading over, we haven't heard from 90 in a while, and then bang. And what follows is probably the saddest sequence in this entire series.
You know it was an accident. You can't blame yourself.
Maybe not, Matt. But I keep asking myself, was the lieutenant ready for that space capsule test?
We all know he was, Steve. He won his wings before he went. Oh, Steve, how terrible. He was such a nice boy.
He sure was, Venus.
This is genuinely really affecting. I mean, the voice actors are doing such a good job selling this, especially when we come back to Space City and...
I tried to reach him, Commander.
I know, Steve.
It's just Commander Zero looking at the empty chair.
The lieutenant was the best assistant I ever had.
Yeah.
Aww.
You would have made a fine controller. I guess the world's...
And I'm not ashamed to say that when I first saw this as a kid, I genuinely believed that Lieutenant 90 could really be
Has
dead.
to be an inquiry.
Sure, Commander. We're on our way.
But luckily for us, and for him,
One oxygen pill left. They'll never
he ejected.
find time.
Swallowed a... I nearly said swallowed an ejection room. He didn't swallow an ejection room. That wouldn't work. He swallowed an oxygen pill.
I might as well have stayed in the capsule instead of ejecting into space without a thruster pack.
And now we have the puppet sort of hanging in front of the back projection screen. The way the puppet is lit, it does strange things to his eyes. It gives the face a sort of slightly sinister quality, especially with these huge bushy eyebrows that he has. And this is an image that cropped up occasionally in UFO and Space 1999. It was always quite poignant, just this lone astronaut, completely alone, spinning off into space. And again, it works quite well here. It's let down by the fact that they can't really hide the strings.
What?
Yes, it's Lieutenant 90.
Although I have to question how you guys missed Lieutenant 90 floating out in space and didn't notice until you were almost back at Earth. Did you not search? I suppose you had no reason to search. You assumed you were still in the capsule. But why did you not detect him earlier? Who cares though, because he's okay. Lieutenant 90 is going to be okay. The effects of the vacuum of space not affecting him at all, because, you know, it just doesn't.
Astronaut 90 of the World Space Patrol.
And I'm not sure how many times after this episode we actually see 90 go into space. I know Drama at Space City was one. He joined Zero to chase after XL5 in XL1. I'm not sure if there were any episodes shot before this one where he was working on an XL ship. I have a feeling, actually, this one might have been shown quite early in XL5's run, so it wouldn't have been necessarily a continuity issue, but anyway, Lieutenant 90 has got his astronaut's wings, very important to him. Not sure it'll be relevant to any other episodes bar Drama at Space City. And that was Flight to Danger. Yeah, I still really like this one. A lovely sense of firstly, of exploring a minor character, always a good thing to do. That very dramatic bit through the middle and into the second section with the training flight and the explosion, and then that very sad bit where they all think he's dead. I'm gonna go have a cry now. Goodbye.
We love a bit of Fireball XL5, don't we, Richard? It's such a sweet series.
Yeah. Having said that, I've not seen an episode.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, sorry. No,
well,
I must do. I must find time to sit down and watch all these old series.
We'll sit down and watch some eventually. In fact, are you coming over for Fab Live tonight?
For Fab Live, yeah. Do that.
Okay, we'll do something anyway. So Chris, thanks very much. I like the fact that he knew that episode because he was sent the wrong VHS by Our Price back in the day.
Right, yes.
Yeah, if you remember Our Price. I vaguely
do remember Our Price, yeah.
So there you go. Thank you very much, Chris. Always enjoy a good randomizer, especially if it's a bit of a retro one, because there's always something a little bit quirky and cute about the retro shows, which a little bit different to when he's got Scarlet or Space Precinct or whatever else.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, so that's it, isn't it? Unless you've got any other tweets or things you want to say.
We often make a plea for people to subscribe and leave reviews on iTunes and Stitcher and so on. I've got a couple here I just thought I'd read out, but the thing is, I printed them out so small, I've actually got to use this huge magnifying glass to read them.
My grandmother's got one of those, you know.
I know, isn't that ridiculous? Only by using this can I say... Right, so the first one, this is from Johnny Bongo. Johnny Bongo left a review on iTunes fairly recently. He said, okay, Pod 35 reminded me to write a review. He's been a listener from Pod 1, a Firestorm backer, Super Marination and live action Gerry Anderson fan for 50 years.
Brilliant.
He's got the complete DVD collections, books, comics and toys. Yes, toys!
Wow.
And now Ultra Marination fan. I'm so pleased, he says, this legacy is not just being kept alive, but also giving birth to new shows, because as we know, there's brand new Gerry Anderson stuff being made right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Top job, Jamie and team, whoever they are. This is a British institution and will continue to be so. Great podcast, always entertaining. Keep up the great work. Spread the word, folks. Fab, S-I-G. How's that?
That's a brilliant review. Thank you very much.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So we do love it if you could leave us a review and a rating on whatever platform you're listening to us on.
Yeah,
and,
please do.
Tell your friends. Yeah.
And keep subscribing, because we've noticed the subscriber base is growing every week now, which is absolutely brilliant. We love seeing that. And it means more of you hopefully are enjoying the world of Gerry Anderson.
Yes.
Now, the only thing about a podcast, Richard, is that there's no feedback, really. We get the emails, but there's nothing real time. When we're doing Fab Live and other stuff like that, we get real time feedback. When we're tweeting, we all get that sort of stuff. So if there's anything you'd like to hear more of, or you think there's something we're missing on the podcast, make sure you drop us a line or tweet us.
Yes.
So I'm Jamie Anderson, Richard N. James. Those are the two things. I wasn't just saying our names. It sounds weird when I say it. It's fine when you say it. Anyway, tweet us, #Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we want to know your thoughts, but also keep those reviews coming in, because they also help us kind of shape the podcast going forward.
Yeah.
And Richard, I'll just end this off with a few more shout-outs to our international listeners.
Oh, I think you should. What a great idea.
To those in Norway, Sweden and Finland and Denmark who listen in, thank you very much.
Cool.
We have one listener in Estonia, so to our Estonian listener, thank you. We're quite popular in Romania, Bulgaria and Croatia, so hello to you if you're listening right there. It's amazing, isn't it? I love it. I just keep flashing around the map and thinking, wow, I can't believe there's somebody there. It's just brilliant. And also to our 2 listeners in Taiwan.
Oh,
thank you
do you
so
think they know
much
each other?
for tuning in. Well, I don't know, but we could connect them up.
Oh, the 2 listeners in Taiwan. Yeah.
Sort of,
both of you, email us. Let's get you in touch with each other.
Yes.
And let's try and get a meet-up.
Yeah, we could. I mean, I am thinking actually we should have a Gerry Anderson podcast group on Facebook. where listeners all around the world can connect up with each other. That would be fun, wouldn't it? If you'd like that, drop us a line or tweet us. We'd love to do that. It'd be a nice way to get everybody chatting after the show. Anyway, that's it. We're done. I'll stop talking now.
Great.
Everyone
not great that you're stopping talking.
Rude.
No.
Everyone can go and get on with their day now. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing, and thank you for listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this on a Monday, we'll see you for Fab Live this evening at 7 o'clock.
And if not, then you can rewatch it at the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel and elsewhere. But for now, goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
That was rather jolly and international, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I hope it's pleased our only listener in South Korea.
Oh, I forgot to mention our listeners in Argentina, didn't I? Or did I say that at the beginning? I don't
think you mentioned the Argentinian listeners, no.
Yeah, and I definitely said about the Colombian listeners, for sure. The Irish contingent, Spain, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland,
Do you
Italy.
think we ought to start doing more international features then?
Yeah, I mean, do we need to do the Gerry Anderson podcast in French or something, or Portuguese?
I could learn Esperanto. That would cover all bases, wouldn't
Absolutely,
it?
yeah.
We could do it in Klingon and Unwinese.
Right, fair enough. So future editions of the podcast will be transmitted in Klingon and Unwinese to cover all the bases.
Much joy to the eyeball.
We should definitely go now.
Kapla!